Will China become the world's biggest economic power? For a large part of the 20th century, people in China had to face systematic human rights abuses, starvation, forced labor, executions. The communist regime under Mao Zedong seriously damaged the country's economy. Change began when the leader died in 1976. Restructuring followed. In the next decades, China became an unstoppable force. Its aim? Global dominance.
500 million people have moved out of poverty in China. And that almost surely would not have happened without globalization. Globalization of trade, which enabled China to access global markets. Probably there's been no event in a very long time that has had so much impact on the lives of so many people.
China reformed in the sense of stopping to have a dysfunctional, centrally planned economy in about 1978. Their average growth rate was probably 10% in real terms. So it's extraordinary. I mean, it's not unprecedented, but it's certainly the biggest and fastest thing we've seen of that type.
While people's labor was cheap, China started using the marketplaces of a global economy to export labor-intensive goods, textiles and apparel. Today, the International Monetary Fund lists China as the second largest economic power, having surpassed Japan and Germany.
I'm not sure whether they're going to be able to continue their rapid growth into the future, but most economists don't think they will.
The export sector is not a particularly powerful engine of growth because the rest of the global economy isn't doing very well. And so they're having to rely much more than their predecessors on domestic consumption, household income rising fairly fast, building of service industries, and so on.
Moving to a consumption society is harder than one thinks, so there'll be bumps along the road in making that transition. China's biggest problem is their scarcity of resources. They have very little water. They have very little arable land. They have to import or figure out ways to use technology to make agriculture much more efficient. They have to use technology to create ways to unpollute their air.
They're likely to face the consequences of global warming, of enormous flooding in the coastal belt. At the moment, it doesn't look as though countries are going to adopt sufficiently severe policies against global warming.
There are more challenges on the horizon. China has accumulated great debts, and there are many state-owned enterprises. These tend to be rather inefficient. Furthermore, due to its one-child policy, the country is going to face the consequences of an aging population. All this is an enormous threat to economic growth. But nonetheless, China has changed the world's dynamics in the last decades and will continue to do so in the years to come.
The two gigantic economies in the global economy will be China and India. And if they both succeed, that will be a very interesting world, because you'll have China and India and then North America and Europe. There'll be a reasonable balance of economic power in the world then. But we got a long way to go to get there.